Welcome. Oops. Welcome, everybody. Today we have a special guest, two in the house, and we're going to be talking about mindset and the mind. That's something we don't see, and sometimes we can neglect it. So I would like, Christine, if you could introduce yourself, and then Terry, who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll get into our podcast on mindset.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for having us, Pete, on this
My
rainy
pleasure.
afternoon.
Yes.
Yes, my name is Christine Despres. My business is the Wellness Navigator. I am actually a registered nurse for over 30 years, and I specialized in rehabilitation, dementia, and hospice. About 10 years ago, I started to realize I needed to get ahead of the curve and help people 20 or 30 years before the symptoms set in and disease and illness were just part of the program. So my focus now is a holistic brain health coach, and I help women in midlife create a blueprint for aging well, staying sharp and confident so they can enjoy their life, honestly.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
It's just music to my ear and to my brain. So thank you for being here. Terry, who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll get into it.
Terry Phoeicie, I'm founder of Essentia Mindset Evolution, and I'm basically a hypnotherapist. Also practice NLP techniques to help people go from where they are to where they want to be by removing the obstacles in between. I got here because it worked for me. I use hypnosis and NLP to help people become who they were created to be.
Wow, I love it. You know, before I had a stroke, I never really thought about the brain. I just didn't, I just thought it was there and it is what it is. But when I started doing some things and researching and finding out how kind of incredible the brain is, I really had an appreciation for what I was starting to put in my body. Christine, I've been on your I've been on your workshop, so I know a little bit. Tell our viewers, what foods really feed our brain, and why is it so important to give them what they need?
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite topics, Pete. I love talking about food. I do believe that food is medicine, but I definitely don't believe it should taste like it. So I enjoy everything I eat. It's not always perfect. That's also important. But in general, if we are eating an anti-inflammatory diet, that's going to be the best food or fuel for the brain. If you think of it like a car, you wouldn't put diesel into your regular car engine, right? And so if we think of the mind that way, what we are fueling our body with is what is basically running that engine and fueling your ship. The brain is your greatest asset, the CEO of your life. So really thinking about what you're putting in your body and how that affects your brain overall. The U.S. Pointer study is a great study that came out last year. I won't go into all the details, but scientifically, the MIND diet, which is the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet together, this is proven to prevent cognitive decline up to 50%. And a little bonus in eating that way is you naturally lose weight because you're eating real whole foods that actually nourish the brain and the body. So salmon and olive oil and leafy greens and lots of vegetables, nuts and seeds and berries are the major components. And then limiting those things that we all know are bad for us. But I will just mention, a little bit less on the red meat and the butter, the processed foods, the potatoes, the fried foods, the sugary drinks, limiting those. Not saying you can't ever have them. It's not a restrictive program. It needs to be a lifestyle. But when you put brain health at the forefront, you can still enjoy yourself now and then and enjoy the cake, but go back to eating well and your brain will be happy.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said. I had heard for years about brain fog, and it was kind of like that was a understood part of just the journey. But understanding what you just said and
Mhm.
how important it is to give the brain what it needs gives you clarity and so much more energy. Because I gave up
Mhm.
sugar. I drink my coffee
Nice.
with a tiny bit of cream. I gave up
Yep.
a lot of things and I started adding things like avocado and blueberries and walnuts and things.
Yep.
And I once I saw the difference, I just kept going. It wasn't like I had to wait to see the difference. My
Mhm.
energy level was so much better. My brother even said, like, Pete, you're sharper after your stroke than you were before. And I said, because I'm feeding my brain the right things. So,
Yeah.
Terry, you mentioned about being stuck, and that was a big part of my journey. I always would crash and hit walls. So, talk to us about what that means from a standpoint of this, because we have so many thoughts that go through our head. It's hard.
Mhm.
And I want you to comment on this because Jonathan, who's speaking at our event, he was on and he was talking about therapy as a relationship. And I'd never heard that before, that
Mhm.
relationship with a person who helps this. So, talk to us about what hypnosis does to help people get unstuck.
Peter, that feeling of getting stuck can come from a lot of different places, and one of them that I hear of quite a bit is when somebody has either experienced something throughout their life, whether it was when they were a child, or if it happened in adulthood, getting fired from a job, losing a partner, a divorce, those kind of things. And a lot of times, what happens is people get into negative loops where when they think of a certain situation that happened, always think of it on a negative side of things, and that sometimes creates a picture in their mind. But people who are especially people who are visual people, people that are auditory people might hear a voice telling them that they're no good. See, you lost the love of your life. It's all your fault. That kind of thing. So they get these negative loops going. So what we do with hypnosis and NLP techniques is we help them to change that picture, because what can happen is that negative loop runs long enough, that can start to become an identity problem. Because that person starts to believe that
Mhm.
that's really who I am. Yeah, it must be who I am because that's what I always hear and what I always see. So we help them to change that, either change the narrative, change the feeling that they're having, or help them change what they're seeing visually in their mind.
Hmm. Do you feel that in your journey, did you have to calm the brain down? Was there techniques that you were doing as you were going through it that that was one of the things that you were doing? Because we have 12 to 60,000 thoughts that go through our head. And if we're in that negative loop, a lot of times we got so much noise going on. How do we
Mhm.
calm down that brain? What would you share with our viewers on that topic?
Well, a lot of times it's again just that loop running. But what we need to do is we need to also clear out the clutter of the things that aren't true. You have a candid but a caring conversation with a person, and you say, they'll bring up a situation like somebody, nobody likes me, for example, and you say, wow, really, nobody, your mother, your father, nobody likes you, and you start to have these conversations, and those conversations are good at clearing out a lot of that clutter that they spend time thinking about that is basically useless. Um, it's worse than useless because it's causing a negative situation to happen. But for me, that's typically what the things that I do and what I've done with myself is I just think about it from a rational perspective and say, that's really silly that I'm thinking that way. That's a ridiculous thought. Why would I think about that way? And the other thing I do is I try to work with a person to help them be their own biggest fan instead of their own biggest enemy. Um, because that can happen as well. They get into this negative loop and all they do is say negative things about themselves. Well, if that's all you think, then you're with your best friend, supposedly yourself, and you say negative things all the time. It's just going to continue to perpetuate itself. So I help them to switch that around. Reframe is a good technique. Reframing is a good technique for that, and just help them to change that thought process that they're having. And once you clear that clutter and start focusing on the things that really do make sense or are actually true, the brain automatically quiets down because you take a lot of that clutter away.
Mm-hmm. Do you, this is for Christine. So we see, dementia and we see Alzheimer's on the rise. Is that happening in America or is it happening outside of America too? Is that a global challenge problem that you've been able to discover or figure out?
Yes, from my understanding, America especially, but yes, it is a worldwide thing. I believe that, technology and the world is moving so fast that our bodies truly haven't had time to catch up with the times, and processed foods, just look at the risk factors for Alzheimer's, dementia, and work your way back from there. But hearing loss, pollution, cardiovascular health, obesity, diabetes, these are all risk factors. And as a society, as a world, things are moving really quickly. We have cell phones and radiation and plastics and lots of chemicals and dyes, lotions and potions, whether you put it on your skin, which is absorbed in your body, or you're ingesting it or you're smelling it. It's just coming at us from a lot of different angles. And the body cannot really process all these toxins. It doesn't recognize them. They're clogging up our systems and making things more challenging for our bodies to do the miraculous work. Your brain functions 24/7. And like you said, Pete, most of the time, if it's working right, you don't even really notice everything it's doing. But it's your thoughts, your actions, your habits, how you move, but your heartbeat, your breath, like all the autonomic things. When we're living in a society that's completely stuck in fight or flight all the time, that stress mode where we're always on the go, we are always on our phones, there's people always coming, for our attention. Our body doesn't have the same chance to rest and digest like it used to, like it needs to filter out the toxins and to process whatever's being put into the body or coming at it. And so that lack of downtime, the poor sleep, and the busyness is kind of all compounding with the environment around us. And unfortunately, gosh, I think there's 7 million people in the US with Alzheimer's. The number is expected to double or triple in the next 20 or 30 years if we don't honestly change our ways. And 2/3 of those people are women.
Oh, really?
So,
Why would that be the case? Is there something? I know there's a difference between us, but why does the brain of one differ from the other?
There's some great scientists out there that are beginning to study this, but women's health was not studied very much over the past, 10, 20, 30 years, just because of the pregnancy risk. And they had some studies that went wrong. And so they sort of took women out of the equation for a while, but they are getting back to studying this. The obvious answer is hormonal shifts and understanding how much of effect estrogen has on the body and brain function. And even just going through the change in midlife, you can lose up to 30% of your brain function as a woman just based on hormonal regulation. So that right there is an indicator to me, but I'm definitely not the scientist, but I'm ready and interested in the results that are coming our way.
Interesting. I've seen a lot lately on creatine. So I would love, Christine, if you could comment first, and then we'll ask
Sure.
Terry. What has that been in your travels journey? Do you recommend it? Do you take it? Is that part of your routine at all?
It is. I've been experimenting with creatine for the past 6 months or so. I usually wait for the trends to, filter through the biohacking world and the
Mhm.
wellness social media reports, and then they get to like the brain health experts and the
Mhm.
real scientists, and I start to make some suggestions and some experiments based on that. I am trying. I'm also trying to create more muscle, so I think it's good for that. And then the brain health experts are saying it does help with mood and cognition.
Mhm.
It's relatively inexpensive, doesn't have a lot of side effects. It's very individual, like any medicine or supplement. I really feel like I just wouldn't tell everyone to take anything, except for maybe like omega-3 and vitamin D. But it's not a bad idea to consider, especially if you are lifting weights or using your muscles and want to see quicker recovery and greater response. You do have to take about a double the regular recommended dose to actually have it cross the brain barrier. So you have to work your way up into the 10 gram, maybe a little bit more. So that's something you have to experiment with your body, how that feels, and if you notice any difference.
Yeah, there's, I have always, when I would ask after my stroke, like, how long am I going to be able to do this? And they'd say, we don't know, because every brain injury is different. So they
Yeah.
wouldn't give me any indication of anything. So you're kind of out there on limbo. What do you think, Terry, about creatine? What have you heard? Is there anything you're doing that you could share with us?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was around when creatine first started to get big back in the 80s. And I think it's come a long way in terms of um, the opportunity for these companies to test it and make sure it's pure and there's not a lot of junk in it. So I would say, I do take it. I've taken it, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, probably now pretty regularly. But I only do about 5 milligrams a day.
Mhm.
I did it just to help with maintaining muscle mass as I age. And
Mhm.
I've done a lot. I've read several of the articles regarding how it can help you from a cognitive perspective as well. I don't take the 10 grams. I will try it to see if I notice a difference. And but I know a few people that do take it, and they take it for varying reasons. I have read that creatine monohydrate is the best one. I don't know if there's
Mhm.
others out there, but they say make sure it's monohydrate and make sure it's NSF approved or third party studied. So then there's not a lot of junk in it. It's just to make sure you get a high quality one. That's really all I know about it.
That's a good point.
That's, I've heard that creatine, what did you say? Monohydrate.
Hydrate, monohydrate.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did see that word because I kind of, once I hear things, on a podcast, I'll do a little bit of research to get a little bit more information, and
Mhm.
that had been coming up. And then once you listen to one video, then the other ones pop in. So it's easy to get
Right.
more views on different things. What do you
Mhm.
think, Christine, when it comes to working with your clients? What is the toughest thing for people to get started and continue that journey of healthy brain health?
If I had to narrow it down, honestly, helping people just to understand that taking care of yourself is not really it's not a privilege, it's not selfish, it's necessary and needed, especially if we want to age well. And I often talk about longevity versus health span and this new concept called joy span. It's like I've seen what happens when people are not enjoying their older years and they live for a very long time and in not very good shape. And I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. And so if you can spend the time and the energy and the money while you have the opportunity, whatever age that might be, to invest in yourself, it will pay off in the quality of life that you have in the years to come, and helping people see that switch. And like you said, people don't realize that even just one good meal can change the way they perform in their job or the way they sleep or how much energy they have, even just one thing. So really compounding those micro habits, making it seem reasonable versus a big restrictive program or training for a marathon. We're just going to go for a walk around the block, starting small and working our way up and making it individual for the person's lifestyle. What program works for me does not necessarily work for anyone else. So I think building the program around that person's lifestyle. What's their family like, their job, their motivation, their energy, their values? Why are they even coming to me at all? And then really creating something that resonates with them so that they connect to that vision of how they want to age and what's important to them.
What do you think, Terry, this question is like, we see a lot of technology coming at us fast, AI. What do you think that speeding of how information gets delivered, are you finding that, are you reserved when it comes to AI, or are you putting your big toe in, or you got both feet in? Give us a little idea of how you're handling the new technology that's been coming and is in full effect.
I'm using it sparingly, I will say, probably compared to a lot of people. I use it for information. I use it to, like, for example, if I write something, I'll run it through it just to see if there's any grammar issues or whatever, or ways to say it better than what I currently say it. I use it. I think it's got value for sure. I'm concerned with some of the news and some of the stuff that's in the media right now about how it's being basically termed a doomsday type situation where it's going to take over the world and kill us all. And I really don't think anybody's going to let that happen for one. But I think as we go forward, it's just going to continue to get faster and faster. I don't know what the end game is going to be, but I do use it, and I think it is a valuable tool. When it comes to replacing people, as far as their jobs are concerned, that is a concern of mine as well. And I think we're going to go through a period of where maybe we see some of that. We're already starting to see some of it in the big tech companies, because they know how to use it better than most. But that has happened many times throughout our industrialized past, where things were automated, things would happen, people lose their jobs, something else rises. That's where you get your job, and that's easy for me to say, to start a whole new career in something that you know nothing about. However, I think the opportunities will present themselves, and I hope that not that I want more government regulation on things, but I just think that there needs to be at least some guardrails there where people are protected in a manner in which they can, still take care of their families, etc. So I don't know what that means, but I think it's a very useful tool. But I think that also we need to, like I said, build some guardrails around it as we move forward.
Yeah, makes sense. I finished reading this book, Abundance or Collapse, and it was basically the two sides of the coin. And, you have kerosene, it can burn down a house, but it also can heat a house. So you have two sides to everything. And so you got to be aware, because we're going through rapid change. There's no doubt. And why I loved having y'all on was, when you're going through change, you don't want to do it alone. You want to do it in community with somebody that is trained and can help you through that transition. And I know, Terry, I know your story that, by getting that help to find that next chapter of your life, it's a big thing when you're deciding to make a change. And I'm sure with Christina too, Christine, is that when you're a nurse for 30 years and you're okay, I'm going to step out and do something completely different.
Mhm.
It's that unknown. I mean, it's you're learning something new, but the brain does like learning something new.
Mhm.
What was the biggest challenge for you, Christine, when you're serving, you're a nurse for 30 years, now you're doing something completely different. What was that like for you
Yeah.
for your transition?
Well, Pete, it was it was pretty overwhelming, to be honest. It's been an
Mhm.
interesting process. I started about 10 years ago, slowly. And then when COVID came, as a director of nursing and infection preventist, I was not really able to do much. So put things aside and got my daughter off to college and was able to really focus. And that's what I was hoping I would really be able to focus. But I understood that I don't know how to run an online, I'm not an entrepreneur and I don't know how to run a business. So seeking coaching, don't, like waste thinking that you're saving money, but you're not being efficient or effective. And so coaching in every angle, whether it's a coach in your community like Pete for your mindset, like Terry, or for your health and wellness and your brain health. I did it for business. I did it for business school, and it was a huge investment. And I thought, I'm not making any money. How can I spend this much? But I'd still be spinning my wheels if I hadn't done that 4-month coaching program. And those women can be my mentors for forever, for as long as I still want to learn and grow and go through changes and face obstacles and challenges with the right mindset, honestly, because business is really mindset, right? I don't know if you have any favorites out in the business world or in your coaching world, but people like Bob Proctor and Wayne Dwyer, it's like 95% of what we do is our mindset. And yes,
Yeah.
the strategy is important, and I needed to learn those basics, but I also needed to learn my mindset and to have faith that what I was doing was heading in the right direction, even if I didn't know where that was, or that I would figure out if it was somewhere different, if it didn't work out the way I was headed, that I would be able to make those adjustments. So having that faith about your path, your mission, your business, it's not maybe going to be exactly where you thought it was, but knowing and trusting yourself, I think, is one of the most important things.
Yeah, you said investing in yourself. And for my whole career, never hired a coach until I had a stroke. And when I got such transformation, I decided to pursue it. And I think investing in yourself is the best investment you could ever make. It's the best return. And, we sometimes think we can figure it out, but it takes a lot longer. And that feedback and that accountability and those blind spots, they're real and they happen to us. But when you're like getting a paycheck every Friday, like in your nursing career, I mean, you know you're going to get paid, but as an entrepreneur, you don't get paid. It's not an automatic. So you have to shift that mindset to how do I create that value enough that people are saying, I want to pay you to help me get to where I want to get and get there faster. What do you think when it comes to I'm a big like morning, I have routines and I try to eliminate as much thinking, decision making as I possibly can. Let's go with Christina first. What have you automated or put into a habit that has honored you in your journey to be that entrepreneur and have your own business?
Sure. I'll start with the basics. Honestly, starting my day with gratitude has been a huge game changer. Yes, also with a glass of water before my tea or coffee, but those morning statements of today's going to be a great day. I can do anything that comes my way. What am I looking forward to? What am I grateful for? Before I even get out of bed. And that sets your brain up for success. It's the vehicle to get you to your destination. So if you tell it that it's going to be a great day, and what you're looking forward to, it will help get you there, and it will look for ways to enhance that along the way. So that has been a huge shift for me. Honestly, I don't know, during some of the setup and during the business, I didn't always have a super optimistic attitude that things were going to work out. So that was one of the biggest shifts that helped me.
Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Terry, what about your transition to when you were getting that paycheck every Friday, then all of a sudden you step out and it's that, well, there's no paycheck coming Friday unless
Right.
I get out there and put that value out there. How do you, what kind of habits have you developed that have served you well in that transition?
Well, for me, I had to, first of all, go back and work on my identity because my career had become my identity. And once that, I retired pretty abruptly. I didn't have a plan after that. And so basically when I left the work, my identity went with it. So I just took some time and did some, I got on some online courses and things like that, just trying to help me to understand what it was that what I wanted, what I would do if I could versus always doing what I had been expected to do. So if I could do anything, what would I do? And I ended up here. Because it worked for me. Hypnosis worked for me and pulled me out of a pretty deep place. So now I'm similar to Christine. I have some morning habits that I do. I usually, first thing I get up in the morning, I usually drink about 24 ounces of water. I stopped drinking coffee because coffee always gave me a terrible afternoon crash, which, it was really unproductive unless you drink another cup of coffee and then you can't sleep at night. So yeah, I do about 24 ounces of water in the mornings because that just kind of gets everything moving. I also do some gratitude. I usually pray every morning when I wake up first thing, to be thankful for what I have, and then to also to ask for guidance moving forward and strength and courage and confidence, etc. Persistence. I probably have more of a morning routine than anything else. Beyond that, get into who knows, on any day it's different. Going forward, that is something that I feel that I need to do a better job of, is to plan chunks of time during the day and put specific things together that I need to do during those chunks of time. And I think that will help my productivity a lot.
Yes, yeah, that makes so much sense. Yeah, I for years I was kind of healthy, but I never did the hydration in the morning. And probably the last couple, 3, 4, I have been. I keep about, I think it's 20 ounces of water on the nightstand, and that's the first thing I do is hydrate. And it's amazing what a difference it makes. It's kind of like you hear people that are like droggy to get out of bed and stuff like that. I can't wait to get out of bed. And especially when I drink the hydration, it's just like I start the day clear, and that fog or whatever drogginess is not there. And somebody explained to me, this was a few years ago, that you dehydrate through the night and you have to rehydrate in the morning to get that brain going and get that body going. What would you, if you had a magic wand, Christine, and you could wave that magic wand, what would you wish for?
Interesting. Well, world peace.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I know, not my normal answer, but I think
Let's just
today
say, let's narrow
that's
it
what I'm
down.
feeling. Okay.
Okay, let's do it to your business. Let's
Sure.
go. If you could do the magic wand for your business, what would you wish for?
I'm hoping and moving towards having an online business manager that will help me organize all of my systems and create automations and systems in place for my program that really have all my documents, everything branded. Similarly, my program is an eight session program, and so it is quite organized. But when you think about how magically it would be if it were just pristine and wonderful and all set up, that would be what I would wish for at this point. It is a work in progress, and I'm heading there. But I'd love to click my heels 3 times and make it happen.
Yeah.
I love that. No, I love Wizard of Oz. That is such a wonderful. Yeah. So, Terry, what about yourself? If you could wave that magic wand, what would you wish for?
Well, first of all,
Besides
I'd wish for what's that?
Besides
I didn't
more
hear.
grandkids.
Oh yeah, we got plenty of those more coming. So I would first of all wish for good health and longevity. Like Christine referenced earlier, I don't want to be that person that needs help to do anything. So I want to be able to continue to move and have strength, etc., going into my latter years. When it comes to the business, I would like to. I need more. I'd like to have more exposure, more exposure, so I can impact more people positively. Because to me, that is one of the best feelings that I've had, is when I can assist somebody and help them overcome something that they've had trouble with for many, many years. Even as little as having somebody text me and say, I slept all night last night. I haven't done that in years. After one session, that to me is really powerful.
Yeah, it is. That transformation, it's that fulfillment that you get when people respond in that way. Because, life is, I think somebody explained this, there's nobody that gets through struggle or pain or trauma. It happens to everybody. It's like, how do you get through it? How do you learn? How do you get better? So, when you hit that rough spot, it's not like it's the end of the world. It's just a challenge, but it takes a little bit of that mindset to the first time you get through it. The second time you're a little bit better. So it is a journey. What would you say to Christina at 20 years old? Like, what advice would you give her now that you look back 30 years in nursing? You're now helping people really get healthy brains and being able to coach through that. What would be the advice you would give to a 20-year-old Christine?
Oh, me? I thought you were having Terry give me the advice. Sorry.
He'll be next. He gets to hear yours.
I want Terry's advice.
Yeah, you want me to tell Christine?
Okay. All right. Let's do this.
No.
All right. Terry, 20-year-old Terry, you're advising him what you know, what you've been through. What would you tell a 20-year-old Terry?
I would say believe in yourself and believe in your vision, and you can accomplish anything that you set your mind to.
That's beautiful. All right, Christine, that 20-year-old Christine's there just waiting for that advice. What would you tell her?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to joy, honestly, to enjoy your life. I know there were times where I didn't want to work in the hospital, and not to say yes or no, but I think you should really, enjoy what you're doing. Yes, you are going to have to work hard at periods of your life. And as you said, Pete, times are going to ebb and flow throughout, but maintaining that joy and happiness. And it's always not just about the destination. It's about enjoying the ride along the way. And taking time to enjoy your life on a daily basis, not just the next vacation, the next promotion, or when you get to this particular point in life when I'm done having children or when I retire. Really making those years count along the way and having a sense of joy and appreciation and gratitude and love for the life that you're living.
That is beautiful. I'm going to break for a commercial, and then we have one more final question. For our viewers out there, Terry and Christine are going to be two of our 12 speakers that we're going to have this Saturday at Grace Church next to Town Center. So if you want to get more and meet people of the caliber of Christine and Terry, come on out. You can go to pkane.me/live, and I'm going to see if I can get the QR code up there. Get the right one. There we go. Here we go. Now, that QR code will also get you to a spot where you can register. There's a free gift for everybody that registers. Not only will you be able to meet Christine and Terry and 10 other speakers, you'll be able to be around people that are making an impact, helping each other, and giving you the information, because I'm a firm believer it's a circle of learning. We all learn from each other. And when you can have people of their caliber in a building at one time, you want to be in that building. So go ahead, you can register. And if you have any questions, you can certainly ask them questions on Saturday too. Okay. All right. That's the commercial break. Oops. Hold on here. Let me do a little maneuvering here. I'm going to get that banner off. Okay. So Christine, first, how can people get a hold of you?
My website is called thewellnessnavigator.com. My email is christine@thewellnessnavigator.com. I'd love for you to send me an email. I do a free monthly brain boost. You can sign up on the website. It's 30 minutes virtually the first Wednesday of every month, where we pick one brain health topic, do a short meditation, a little reflection, and learn a tip or two. That's a great start. I also have a fun quiz. Why is everything harder after 40? And that's a great way to figure out where you're at with your own brain health and set a path forward, how you might fall in love with caring for your brain, your greatest asset.
Oh, that's beautiful. I have participated in the Wednesday, and it is wonderful. You want to go to that. You want to be able to have somebody guide you through, because it's an area that we don't know a lot about until we step into that, and stepping into it, and keeping our brain healthy, keeping our mindset right. It's like anything. It's a muscle. And if we don't exercise it, we don't get the strong muscle that's possible. So Terry, how can people get a hold of you?
Website is essentia.llc. And so once you go on that site, there's a contact form you can fill out and send any of your information to me or ask questions. Or my email is terry@essentia.llc. There's also a phone number. I'm not going to give it out here, but where text works best. But usually email is best, because I can get a message from somebody and we can correspond, and then we can set up a phone call.
Awesome. So one final question for both of y'all.
Okay.
And we'll go girls first. What would be the one thing that you would want our viewers to take home from our time on this podcast, Christine?
That the time and energy you spend taking care of your brain really will have a trickle-down effect in every area of your body. When you start prioritizing brain health, you'll see that your metabolism improves, your metabolic health improves, you start sleeping better, you have more energy, you're making better choices, you're incorporating better foods. This, inspires you to want to go to the gym, but it also improves your mood and your outlook, your relationships, your performance at work or with your friends or your family. And it really does just have this amazing compounding effect. So it's a great place to start at the top. Try not to complicate things too much, and then just see how it rolls out for the rest of your body and your life. Honestly, it's the hardware of your soul. So deserves that love and attention.
Ooh, that is beautiful. Thank you for that. Terry, oops. What would be the one thing you would want our viewers to take home from our time on this podcast?
That just because you're in a state that you aren't comfortable with right now doesn't mean you need to stay there. You can get help, and the help is drug free. It's painless. But I can, if you're having trouble sleeping, if you have, anxiety, if there's, just things that are preventing you from moving forward, if you have fears, phobias, things like that, the things that stand between you and who you want to be, contact me and let's have a discussion and let's see if we can help you out. Because I want you to spend the rest of your life being exactly who you want to be, not who you are now if you're not happy with it.
Well said. Thank you both for taking the time to be here, and we appreciate you giving yourself this Saturday to people. So if you want to come and get more of Christine and Terry, register at peatcane.me/live. All right. Thank you all for the time, and thank you for being here in the community.
Thank you, Pete.
Have a good day. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Oops. I hit the wrong button.